Uncle Cass, because I think he's been probably United's most underrated player. I haven't used him as a five things main point, really, and I think he deserves some spotlight. So I'll toss it over to you guys to talk about Uncle Cass.
Um, I don't have a lot to say. I do feel like I've touched on it a little bit. It seems like cutting the weight has been a huge factor for him. We kind of jokingly pointed it out in the preseason going into the early season, but now like you can clearly see it helps. He looks refreshed, like you were saying. He looks like the old Casemiro. Um, shouldn't expect this for long, given the age, but
Right.
putting in a shift for the time that you have him and to be that stopgap for an extra season or two that you probably thought he was going to be. I think that's a pretty good pickup for United, and he's serving you guys well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was under the impression he was never as washed as he was made out to be. I do think at the end of that Ten Hag's last full season, he looked horrific, as did most of the team. Um, we've had so many conversations about United's midfield. Dylan brought up a good point too. They can't play through teams, whether that's personnel, whether that's tactics. I think it's a combination of everything. Essentially, they're asking him to do way too much or way more than he's capable of at the current physical state, right? Because I think he puts in a shift, he still looks class, and then towards the end of the game, you sub him off because that's what it is. That's his age. That's the game. So I think he's just being better utilized at this point. Whether you want to say that's managed better, but I think that plays a big part into the success. I think Bruno deserves kudos too because I still don't think that's really the best role to maximize what Bruno can do for a team, but I still think he's looked very good. So I think that says a lot about him as a player and a character to really make that sacrifice because Bruno and Casemiro, two very good players. We do not think ball retention when we think either of those guys. So to try and adapt and make this thing work, I think it speaks to the character of those two in particular. But yeah, what do you think, Dylan? Do you think it was do you think it was just losing the weight? Like,
I
how's
think
it
that
even out?
I think Amorim gets some credit for this because the weight aspect is obviously important. Him just being healthier because he wasn't like he didn't look physically healthy
Mm-mm.
in that last season. But I also think that Amorim's covering for his weaknesses over this stretch of games. We haven't talked about United's midfield being an issue. We've talked about some defenders. We've talked about Dalot or them not being clinical, but nothing has been like United midfield has been an issue. And I think that largely comes down to them just kind of covering for some of those weaknesses, right? Like Shaw joining the midfield or the high press or just going long in general. Like they're just protecting Casemiro because United can't play through teams because look, if you were to ask him to be a tempo engine as that six, it's not going to work. Like he'll gas by the 45th. But the fact that he went, a full 90 in this match really shows a lot to me. It shows that Amorim's evolving a little bit with the midfield and he's evolving as a player. Like him and Bruno get tons of credit for totally changing the way that they play because they don't like the hold the ball. They want to
No,
be aggressive and play diagonals. But to be fair, like United play a lot of diagonals and they've been able to beat teams going over the top. So I think it's just them being healthier and also just being comfortable with the idea that maybe we're not going to be great at going through teams until we get another six, but with Casemiro, we can be really good in this way of playing.
do what you can
So
with what you have. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
he's
yeah,
starting to maximize. And again, we always have this conversation of they can't even maximize with this formation. We can't get into that, but I'm saying in terms of how Amorim likes to play 3-4-3, all that, he is starting to maximize what he has in the squad. I still do think Dallo is a big hole there, like you said. And you also brought up a good point with Dorgu not getting that shine. I know we got to get into that later, but there's still a lot of things that need to be addressed, right? I know you mentioned 3-5-2. I think that would make sense, but I just don't have the faith that he would even dare to
no,
change
I
the
don't either.
formation. Yeah, I mean, Lamon's looked human, but again, fine. Like, you didn't expect this guy to be
I
prime
was gonna say,
regen Manuel Neuer.
neither of the goals that he conceded were his fault. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's like no, but no stretch. Yeah, I don't think
He
the
actually,
attack was too bad as well. I
they
didn't
were
think the
they
attack
were
was
wasteful.
too bad. For
They were
sure.
wasteful, right? And they weren't at their best, but when you've put enough attacking output out there, it'll ultimately work.